She's a homosexual. I'm a homosexual. Have you re-upped on your homosexual today?
I re-up daily.
It's Saturday. It's not even the Lord's Day yet.
That just gave me a shock.
Are you a religious person?
I'm not a religious person, but I'm a
Okay.
very deeply spiritual person.
Before we start, well, we already started, but I need these funny things. Do you want a pair of these? Because it really gives.
No.
I love
for me to
listening.
hear myself in playback? Absolutely not. I'll let you delight in that.
I will enjoy this. Welcome back to an all-new season of Queer Late Night, and I am your host, Elle, and Queer Late Night is meant to share laughs, spread some light, and some credible stories and journeys from people from the vibrant queer community. I am here this night, this evening, or this time when you're watching me, with a beautiful soul, a great person that I've met on several occasions, out and about, but now we're going to do a little history, a little education, a little track down healthy mental health, and you just stay tuned to what you're gonna get. But I'm gonna read the introduction from my computer because I did not rehearse it. Let's do it. I am joined tonight with John Berno. I'm gonna start over. Fuck, so bad. I'm joined with the ultimate daddy to unpack your daddy issues. Licensed mental health and rehabilitation counselor, is the owner of the Berno Group, a proudly owned and operated psychotherapy practice in New York, serving the queer community to help explore their concerns to deal with sex, relationships, addiction, depression, anxiety, and any issues specific to the queer experience in life in the big city. We welcome John. John.
Hey.
That was a lot.
Wow, you made it through.
I made it through, right?
Yeah.
I
almost interrupted you. I was like, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to start with a mindfulness exercise because you're nervous. I'm nervous.
Do you do that?
I did that on the way here. I do it constantly all day and every day.
I love that because I have been pumping through this and I'm like, okay, I'm about to go and read some shit. I haven't read in like nine days.
Reading's hard.
Reading is hard. Okay? Reading's very hard for me. It's not because I can't read too. I think I've made a lot of jokes in the past, things that I can't. I actually love to read. I read a lot. I just don't read books as much as I read articles. I love reading articles because articles are short, to the point. I normally read a book and I'm like, how many more pages? Fuck.
Same. I'll audiobook and read articles.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Oh, you're an audiobook person too?
Yeah, I'm not a huge reader because I read so much research and work that I'm a little burned out for reading. But I enjoy like a cardio and an audiobook.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a nice.
And I imagine with like always having to take notes, that also like is included into like the reading process. So you're probably like by the end of the day, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I guess, right? Like that's part of it. But I think like I'm also just like constantly like reading new research and like best practices and and I have a team and I'm sending them things. So like in a way, at the end of the day, I'm like I'm good on reading. I don't even want to watch a television show with subtitles.
Oh,
I'm out.
So you're like if you're like you're watching TV and you don't hear it, you're like, oh well, I missed it.
I'll just have to watch for the cues.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is the new year. How did you ring in your new year?
Actually, I was with my family in Chicago and just like me, the family, the nephews, midnight, Happy New Year. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Let's go to sleep.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I was at the coat check at the Cock. Yeah, I loved it. I honestly loved it. You know what? I told myself this year I was going to dial it back to like a 3. And because I was working, and coat check's a beast. If you have worked coat check before, you have to keep these coats in order. And it's really easy when you're not drunk. And I wasn't drunk. I had like a drink. And I was just sitting back there. And you know what? It's nice to have a little buffer between people that are like aggressive.
You heard my gasp when you said coat check at the Cock. I went,
no, it was fun. Like everyone was really nice. Here's the thing about like that night in particular. People come out really early. They'll come out at 9. They're like, where everybody at? I'm like, you live in New York City. No one's They're probably asleep.
Yeah, you're early.
Yeah, they're at home, hopefully getting ready for tonight.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way. But it was a really nice night, and at the end of the night, I made some money, and I didn't lose anybody's coats. End of story.
Success.
Successful in what I do. You love food and you love travel.
I do.
What's the best cuisine you experience, or the best meal you experience? And then second to that, where has been the best place you've ever visited?
Oh, those are you want to do it that way? Wow.
Yeah.
Those are really tough questions for me.
I know. I wanted you to stumble a little bit.
Okay. Well, cool. let me give it a breath, and I will tell you. I think some of the best. This is a hot take.
Okay.
One of the best meals I've ever had in my life, globally.
Okay.
Arca in Tulum.
Okay, so I have to go. And this is, why I was at work yesterday, and what I do when I'm at work is I Google flights. That's how.
Smart. I like that.
And I was like, well, I've been to Tulum 3 times, and I don't remember that restaurant by all means, but I'm going to go now.
Go.
It's good.
Go hungry. It's one of those places you sit down, like, Tulum. It's like everything is super vibey and jungly and like really cute.
Yeah.
And the food is flavor bombs, bonkers.
What did you have?
Everything. But I think one of like the standouts is like, it sounds not so great, but it's a beet tartare.
A beef tartare?
No, not beef. Beet tartare. Right? Okay, stay with me. I see that face.
Okay.
Right? It's not, usually I'd be like, yeah. But the way they do it, it kind of tastes like beef tartare. It's just like beautifully set. I'm not going to do it any justice. You just have to go and you order it and you will understand.
You did say beet, B-E-T.
Mm-hmm, the double E-T.
Like the vegetable?
Yeah, the vegetable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, beet.
Tartare. No meat.
No meat. And I love meat. I'm like the carnivore of carnivores. So like it's extra special. Just go.
All right.
Experience the joy of Arca in Tulum. Arca in Tulum, you're welcome.
Arca and Tulum, please sponsor this podcast.
Please.
Fly me out. Don't put me on a Spirit flight, girl. But fly me out.
Or send me the beet tartare. I mean, I'm an easy gal.
Send me the ticket. I guess I want to answer my own question too.
Yeah, please.
I was just recently in Miami.
Mm.
And you know what? I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't remember where I was. That's so sad.
Tracks, though.
It tracks.
Miami behavior.
Yeah, well, I went to Twist. I know I was there. So once you go there, girl, your mind's gone for the rest of the time you're
Twist
there.
dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're there until 5 a.m. running around trying to find your friends or trying to keep moving because everyone's shoveling you. So, all right, the best meal I've ever had that comes off the top of my mind is on 14th and 7th. It's called Cabela's. Please don't hate me if I said it wrong, but Cabela's, it's, I think, a Cuban infusion style food. You might have been.
I have not been, but my friends went for Pride and like lived their entire life.
It's the best food. You can get whatever you want. They also are open, I think, really late, like maybe 24 hours, maybe like really early in the morning, but their food always smash hits. I think I had the, like, what do you call the corn? Is it called Mexican corn? With the
Elote.
Elote?
Yeah.
I had that. I had a plate. I had so much. Don't quote me. I'll put the menu on the podcast, but that's a meal off the top of my head that I really go to here in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what was your second question? What's my favorite travel destination?
Yes.
Whoa. That's also those are really tough questions for me.
Where
Visitor? Come on, visitor.
There she is.
Are you like that question too?
Yes, she does.
Again, I'm gonna give you a hot take. I'm on a Mexico vibe. My favorite place that I've traveled is called Bacalar. Bacalar.
Okay.
South Yucatan, almost to Belize. Not on the ocean. You're like pulled up to this like beautiful inland lagoon.
Okay.
That's like bright blue colors, like it's like the Caribbean waters.
I love that.
But it's just like peaceful. You get out on a boat. You just like vibe out, have amazing food.
Okay.
Beautiful resorts. It's a vibe.
Okay.
Check it out.
I would say the best place I've ever visited was also in Mexico, but it was 45 minutes north of Puerto Vallarta. So we
Uh-huh.
didn't stay. It was 2 years in a row, and I went with a group of friends, Mike and Rashawn and Josh. We all went together with a lot of other friends, and it's nice to go to a gay area,
Mm.
but also be able to stay outside of it. Because where we stayed was 45 minutes north,
Ah.
and it had its own beach, and it was next to like their version of Walmart there. And I'm a big fan of pastries, and every morning we would get up and go and get pastries and get coffee, and then like walk the beach. And it's fun when you get to a certain point with like your friends, where like we went as a group, we all did like our own thing.
Mm.
There was like we stayed in a villa. The villa was I think like 5 or 6, 8 rooms, 2 pools, one on a roof, one
Mm.
one main one, and then they had a
Mm.
rooftop like canopy thing. It was the vibe, and it was quiet. It was exactly what you need after living in New York City and like the loud craziness of it all.
This is giving me like all of my vibes right now.
As we put up with the cold.
Indeed, 'tis the season.
I think with that being said, I think it's time for our game. Well, it's not a game. This episode is dedicated to mindfulness and starting a new year fresh and really giving yourself grace and all the things that you're going to enlighten us with in your practice and what you teach and help your clients with. So let's do a mindfulness exercise. And by the way, I don't do a lot of mindfulness exercises. My most common mindful exercise is, well, fuck it.
Work. And there's a lot of power in fuck it. Sometimes fuck it is exactly what you need to do. And I'll tell you, with me and mindfulness, right, like, I think the thing with mindfulness is that it can be like this, like, huge spectrum of activities, right?
Yeah.
Like, people can do mindful meditation, which I think was what I think most people imagine mindfulness is, which is, like a very traditional sitting, quiet meditation. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's a form of mindfulness. But you could mindfully walk down the street. You can mindfully make a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
right? It's all about your intention to be present. That's what mindfulness is. The art of, if you will, being present, being in this moment, right here, right now, right? Because our brains as humans, right, if you think about it, you wake up in the morning, what starts happening? You just start thinking, like, what am I eating for breakfast? What's going on with work today?
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Oh, is that bill due in 2 weeks? What am I going to do? Right?
I'm going a million miles a minute when I wake up. I'm like, what do I need to do today? What am I going to wear?
And it just like ticks along,
Yeah.
right? And so sometimes the undercurrent of that is fear, right? The undercurrent sometimes of like our very like human brain is like fearing how to get these things that we want, right? That's a major redux, but like I'll just put it out there. So mindfulness, right, when people practice that, is this way of just like helping train our brain, if you will, to come right back to what's happening right here and now, right? Because we can't control what's happening in the future. We just can't.
Right.
So we're just like fearing this thing that hasn't even happened yet, and like developing all kinds of narratives and stories, and before you know it, we're like spun out about something that hasn't even happened.
That's what anxiety is, right? Like
yeah, in a way, right? Anxiety is this fear of the unknown future or dwelling on the past, right?
Yeah.
Having this more like existential fear of things.
Yeah.
And so when people practice mindfulness, it can aid with things like anxiety. It can aid with things like depression. It can aid with folks who have like focus issues or maybe are neurodivergent in some ways. And kind of going along this idea of, so I'll back up a little, right? A lot of what I talk about with folks is fear.
Okay.
Because fear is this thing that we all have as humans. It like exists in our day all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. Sometimes in like big spikes, sometimes in low levels, right?
Okay.
But if we don't watch out, that fear will start to just like take control.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay. So mindfulness, right, again, is just like this like intentional and gentle way of coming right back to what's happening right now. What is within my control right now?
Okay.
One of my favorite like granddaddies of mindfulness, his name is John Kabat-Zinn.
Okay.
He has a quote that says like, you can't fight the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Oh.
Right? That's life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like all day, we just get waves of things, right? And you can either just get pummeled by them, or you can learn to like duck under them. You can learn to surf them, right? And there's all kinds of different ways to do that. But I think one of the most like fundamental, easy, effective mindfulness techniques is something called boxed breathing or measured breathing. And what it literally does is help your brain to take a deep breath, if you will. It like deactivates a lot of those like fear sensors, fight and flight, to just help you come back to like, what's going on here? So I'll run you through it.
All right.
Right? And like you can be however you want. Like I'm gonna be just like this. You can put your feet on the ground if you want. You don't have to do anything other than what you're doing. And the way this exercise goes is that you inhale for 5 seconds. You hold the top of that inhale for 5 seconds. You exhale for 5 seconds. And you hold the bottom of that exhale for 5 seconds. Beautiful. Right? And I usually suggest to folks do that 5 to 10 rounds, right? So that's a 20-second breath cycle 5 to 10 times.
5 to 10.
And again, like the science of that is that it's activating a part of your brain which is activated when we are in fear, fight, or flight.
Okay.
Right? So it helps to de-escalate, calm, if you will. I like to remind folks like letting your brain take a deep breath.
Would you say that's a good thing to do in the beginning of the morning, or when was it? So, I mean, like, for me, I wake up in the morning and I am like, let's get started. And I don't do any mindfulness. I don't do any, I've been told to do meditation, all that stuff. I'm like, girl, I don't got time for no meditation. I can't in New York City. It's too loud, but I feel like I can breathe. It doesn't matter, you know, what I hear or anything. It's just honestly, breathing is like key, I guess, because I know in yoga that's a big part of it too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I hear you. To take time out of our mornings is challenging because again, our brains are programmed to just go.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. It's great. Like our bodies and our brains get up and go. And right, I often ask people like, what do you think it might be like for you if you incorporated in the beginning of your morning something that was intentional to help you stay right here and right now, as opposed to immediately spinning into the future. And it is hard.
Yeah.
It's a practice, just like anything else, to give yourself that time, give yourself that kind of dedication. It's not easy all the time. I think to practice those kinds of things takes, well, practice. It's hard.
So this is we're going to do queer question. And we used to call this
Queer questions.
Queer questions. Yeah, exactly. So what's something that you left behind in 2024?
What did I leave behind in 2024? I will say in 2024, I left behind a bit of rigidity. Rigidity. For me, that looks like I used to be one of those people that I'm like up at 5, at the gym by 6, like just like I'm on a schedule.
Okay.
Are
you how's that going? You seem like you would always be on the schedule, even if you said you weren't on schedule. I feel like you would schedule being off schedule.
No, like honestly and truly, I have allowed myself to just like not set an alarm.
Okay.
That's what that looks like for me. I'm like, I'm not going to set an alarm. I'm going to wake up, and maybe I might have time to go to the gym before I start work, and maybe I won't.
Okay.
And maybe I'll go later in the day.
I love that.
Rigidity for me looks like if I don't go to the gym at 6, it ain't happening. And now I'm like,
you could give yourself some time and go another time.
Yeah, I might go at 5.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And my like workout might not be like as intense or focused, but like I'm just being easy.
Yeah.
A little bit like easy with myself.
That's good. Giving yourself more grace.
Yeah. What about you? What are you doing?
For me, I left behind in 2024. That's a good question.
It better be. That's your question.
It is my question. I think I left behind. I'm trying to leave behind a combination of imposter syndrome, and also the fight or flight. Not all of it, but I want to leave. I want to break a portion of it off because for a while I couldn't activate getting myself together because I was like, I'm not really, I'm not a journalist. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not doing this, and this person has that, and then it would just kind of make me feel less than in some situations, and then you compile that with like fight or flight and that fear aspect of, oh, I have to do this now. If I don't do this now, this could be like the downfall of this, and then this is gonna fall behind. And at the end of the day, I I am now crying in a Chili's bathroom because not necessarily, but
Yeah.
but I'm really like leaning towards being kind to myself and less in that realm of you don't have that degree, you can't do it. It's more of you can ask for help and support, and everyone started somewhere and can learn something along the way, and you can just build yourself, right?
Like you said something really interesting, which was like when I asked you, like, oh, what did you leave behind in 24? You said, I'm trying to leave behind XYZ.
Yeah.
And then you went on and like describe some things. And I was going to say to you, like, what's the action? What is the action of the things that you wanted? Right? Like, what's the tangible
of the action of
yeah, like how do you change? I heard you say like I'm going to ask for help.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are the things that when people say to me like, "Oh, I want to leave behind XYZ thing." I'm like, "Great. How are you going to do it?" What does it look like?
I don't have a plan. That's why you're here though.
Right, but you do. But you said it already, right? Like that's why I was like, let me hear what he has to say. Right? You said it. You're like, I'm going to ask people for help. I'm just going to press play. Right? Like I'm going to take the actions. I'm going to learn some more mindfulness skills, right? That's it.
Yeah.
That's it
I
right
mean,
there.
you know what? I think that's a part of this New Year thing too, is like you constantly see the New Year revolutions and that everyone has their goals, right? But an action plan is really hard to like kind of like prophesize or put into play when you don't know how to. And with what I do for my day job is like we talk about SMART goals all the time and ways to set up things, but in my real actual life, I don't apply all these things. So I think it does start from mindfulness, right? Because I feel like taking a breath and trying to do little exercises. Once I get back to, center ground and I'm grounded, I'm like, okay, we're just going to worry about what we're doing today, like these next few hours and how it goes. Yeah. And when I do that and I stay like within the day, I feel better. Right. But when I'm in a day and I'm like 5 years ahead, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You
already wrote that book.
Yeah, it's like already published. It's kind of crazy. Can you share what inspired you to specifically do mental health for the LGBTQ community outside of what I just said?
Yeah, for sure. Right. And I'll add to what you said that queer people, we grow up with like a form of trauma being queer. We're othered. We don't get to progress and evolve in the same way that our like straight counterparts do, right? Yeah. While they're dating in like middle school and high school, a lot of times like queer folks are like, what am I doing? Like, where do I fit in? And that stays with us into our adulthood.
Would you say it stunts our growth? Because we don't go through those things in high school and middle school, and we don't start dating until we leave the house.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful not to like put a huge generalization on things. Okay. I will say that it can, right? Because people's experiences are so different, right? Like I came out in the middle of high school. Some people come out after college, right? And so like our different ways of navigating forms us, right? Can it stunt? Sure. Right? And for me, I had seen like great clinicians who were straight and really helped me in therapy in some ways. And then I realized, right, like queer people, gay men specifically, we have our own culture. We have our own way of communicating. We have our own ways of sexual expression. We have our own everything. And when I started to see a queer male therapist in like my like early mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to kind of cut through some of these like very shared experiences of being like a queer man with me, that he would just shine a light and be like, do you think that has to do with anything about growing up queer? And I would be like, huh? I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
And I think this is also the part where I will say queer people don't have to see queer therapists. I want to be really, really like,
You don't think so?
I no,
Okay.
right? Like, that's why I don't want to put in a box. For me, my experience is I love seeing my gay therapist. I think there's a lot of work that can come from queer people seeing queer therapists because we have a shared experience. Just because I'm queer and you see me doesn't mean we have the same, but like there are things that you won't have to explain to me, right? That I might have to explain to a straight therapist,
Okay.
right? And for me, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to teach in my own therapy, right? As the client, right? I just want you to be right there with me.
I shouldn't say this. I was taken out. I did have a therapist once that I was like, I had to teach him. I was like, he was like, oh, that's what gay people do. I was like, luckily I'm not here because I'm gay. It's because I was another issue with my family that I was like, I don't know if I would come back to you for my life because you don't have.
Well, I hope you keep that in because I think that's actually a really important part of finding a therapist that works for you, right? Is like, do you feel connected? Can you talk? Do you feel comfortable?
Right.
And if you don't feel comfortable, then like therapy is not going to be as productive.
No.
Right. So a queer therapist, in my experience and in the way in which I work and my team works, like helps other gay men look at some of those like specifics of the gay experience and put that lens on as we talk about
everything. Yeah.
Everything.
And then in particular, I know that your practice, you focus on CBT and DBT.
Mm-hmm.
Just worked through my dyslexia right there.
Come
I was
on.
like, what's C?
Come on.
One? Can you like give us a brief definition of what the two type of therapies are and how they work?
Sure. So CBT and DBT fall under behaviorism, right? So I think the long and short of it is a lot of times we're looking at how thought and feeling affect action. It's like an equation, A plus B equals C, right? And if we can identify how we feel about a person, place, or thing, what our thoughts are, then our actions will be more clear. Oftentimes, we're not so clear, right? You can ask somebody, like the example here is, I will ask somebody, how do you feel? And they'll say, well, I am thinking that, and they'll give me a sentence. Yeah. That's a thought. That's not a feeling. You have just given me a thought.
Okay.
Right? Like
do it again. Wait, so you ask someone a question.
I'll ask you. Okay. How do you feel right now? How do you feel?
I feel energized.
Okay. Right. Good. Right. So you gave me one word. That's a feeling.
Okay.
Right? You can have a collection of feelings. Right. It can be more than one, but feelings are one word. Oftentimes, like human beings are conditioned to move into thought. How do you feel? Well, I feel like today I woke up and I've just been like really spun out and Okay. Beautiful thought. Okay. But I don't know how you feel. Right. Okay. So if we're unclear on that equation, A plus B, then the C, the action, is sometimes, right? And kind of going back to what you said, we can write a whole book based on lack of clarity, fear, right? Like all these things, right? So that's like my way of which I'm going to explain CBT and DBT. DBT comes with skills to look at different ways in which we communicate, relate to self and others. CBT is looking at that really like fine point of thought, feeling, action.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Which one do you find clients appreciate or gravitate more or take the best benefit from?
I think in my experience, I love helping people unlock that kind of clarity of the CBT, that equation of thought, feeling, action. I love helping people to understand the power that comes with that form of clarity, right? Like, how do you feel? What are your thoughts associated with that feeling? and what's that action,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes we can go backwards. We can go backwards, we can forward. CBA, ABC, right? And I love helping people to understand that form of behavior and how much power we have in our actions.
Yeah.
Because we do. We have so much. We can't control anything as humans. We don't know the future. The past is done. What we've got is right now. What you've got are the words that come out of your mouth and the actions that you take. That's it.
So in recording this episode, I was on the street asking people about mindfulness, and it honestly didn't go well because I couldn't find anyone to ask. So I had to ask myself, what is mindfulness? What is the importance of centering yourself? And I feel like mindfulness helps me feel ready because there's so many things going on in the world and so much happening that every now and then it's just hard to feel prepared for anything, especially on the inside. So mindfulness means to me the ability and the comfort of feeling whole. It's a journey.
Therapy can be helpful for anyone.
Right.
People may not be at a time in their life when they are able to look at therapy as helpful. However, if somebody engages in therapy, it can be helpful at any time for anyone, for anything.
For people that fear opening up to people, is there a way to rework that? Because we talked about fear earlier, like a lot of times fear will keep you from, fear has kept me from opening the mail. You know, I don't want to know what this letter says.
Yes.
I also imagine for me in the beginning of therapy, and this is like, 10 or 12 years ago when I was getting out of the military, to tell someone what was going on in my life felt very vulnerable and felt a little bit like, I'm not crazy. I don't need to go there. I can figure out my own shit.
Totally.
I don't need anyone to help me. But as I got older and as more and more things kept piling on and more things kept piling on, I'm like, I don't think I'm equipped for this type of fucking anything. I would like to just open up that box and being like, how do we get work past that fear and get into like, help. Everyone needs help.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned like fear of being vulnerable. It is very vulnerable to tell anybody, right? Like a therapist, a friend, precisely what's going on with you, right? If I ask you, how are you, right? Like it's you can choose to be how vulnerable you want to be in that moment, right? And those are patterns of behavior, right? And if we get into those patterns of just like not really telling people how we are, then we're alone, right? And sometimes a therapist can help be like, more. It's okay, right? And kind of desensitize that fear of being vulnerable, right? To see what it feels like to just be you and then have a different experience of that.
And then like when it comes to, it's hard to tell people, like your friends, if they ask you how you're doing or how to, you don't want to, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to trauma dump. And that's really true. Like it's good to be, cautious of how much you put on other people. But like for like a therapist for you, like how would you frame it that people would want to come to therapy and not feel like they don't want to have to trauma dump on anyone else, but like come see me. I don't know. I would frame it as, I don't know you and I'm not here to judge you. My whole thing is to help you, but I'm not a therapist. Don't tell me what's going on in your life. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tricky, right? Because people who come to therapy in some way want to be there, right? 'Cause therapy's a commitment. It's expensive, right? All of those things, right? So when people are showing up to therapy, there's at least a part of them that wants to be there.
Yeah.
Or maybe like knows they like need to be there.
Right.
Right. So then it's my job as a therapist to help, like, one, listen to get to know who that person is so that I can like better understand maybe what brought them in the door.
Right.
Right. And then like get them talking, because it's a relationship.
Right.
Just like us today. Like we sat down, we're like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like breaking our own ice, getting more comfortable with each other. It's the same thing in therapy.
I love an icebreaker.
Baby.
It's so much fun.
I love an icebreaker.
Mindfulness and not even like necessarily therapy. Let's take the therapy aspect out of it. But if you practice mindfulness, does that help with procrastination and
Yeah, again, it can, right? Because depending on where people are coming from with procrastination can sometimes be wrapped in that web of anxiety.
yeah,
Sometimes procrastination can be, right, a whole like myriad of things.
right.
And if somebody wakes up, right, like I like to use that example a lot of like, what's your mental state when you wake up?
Yeah.
Like if you could start paying attention to that, it'll provide a ton of information.
Okay.
Right, so let's just say like somebody wakes up.
Wait.
What happened?
Wait, what's my mental state when I wake up?
Yeah.
It's a lot like Cynthia.
Cynthia who? Arivo?
No, Cynthia
Nixon?
Angelica's doll. Oh, I'm just so
Got the camera.
I'm just so disheveled when I woke up.
Oh, yes.
That is-
okay.
That's how some people wake up. I can guarantee you, like out of 7 days in a week, 3 of them I'm like,
Major. So that, if you know that for yourself,
yeah,
right? If I pretended that you were my client and I was your therapist,
yes,
for
Free therapy,
sure, for sure, we would have a conversation
Okay.
about like, hey, how do you think you can rewire your brain first thing in the morning? How do you think you can help yourself start your day less like Cynthia and more like Elle?
yeah,
Right?
Yes.
And some form or forms of mindfulness would most likely be discussed.
I'm really gonna do the breathing exercise though.
Yeah, get
because
into it.
some days I'm like, girl, you're going outside. You haven't had no oatmeal. You haven't any water. But I'm ready. The backpack is packed, honey. I don't care. I'm rattling, but I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah, go Dora. She's ready for her day.
Is there any misconceptions about mindfulness and that you want to address?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is when people hear mindfulness, I think they think that we're going towards like monk status or like being super serene or peaceful all the time.
Yeah.
And that is not what we're doing in mindfulness.
That's not the case.
That's not it.
What is the most rewarding thing a part of your practice about being who you are and what you do?
Oh, I love that question. I'm going to say watching the people I work with change, right? Watching people come in and say like, this is what I'm coming to see you for. It's really challenging for me and or painful for me. And then us working together and them coming to a place where they change, right? Like their lives change, the way they look at themselves and the people around them change, their actions change. And what we were talking about 6 months ago becomes like something of the distant past.
Yeah.
And they're freed up in some way. And they can look at that and be like, oh, wow, like 6 months ago feels like a world away to me. When that happens, I'm just like,
I love that.
I mean, like, that's why I do what I do.
You changed their life.
I mean,
Well, not you, but the work they've done because you.
yeah, right. Like the work that because it's very much a relationship.
Yes.
Has changed. They have taken the steps to change because
Yeah.
baby, they're doing a lot of work. People who come to me, I want to put you to work.
Do you send home homework?
Sometimes.
I love homework. I don't like homework, but like I love homework.
Yeah, same, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't like homework. I don't like when my therapist gives me homework.
Yeah.
However, it's helpful.
Anything to help me be better, I think that I'll take. But like, a normal academic homework, I hate that. Keep that. But like,
Same.
help me be better. But like,
Yeah.
I love that type of homework. What's been like the one? What's been something that someone shared to you? What's been like wow, I really done something. I used to do HIV related work, and I was a case manager for a lot of people, and I really loved it because I loved helping people, right? But after a while, I was like, this is really draining, and I don't think I'm helping everybody as much. And sometimes I feel like the way these systems are set up, girl, I don't think you're going to get the help you need at this moment. And then after the pandemic, after, the world shut down, I got laid off. I was out and about in Brooklyn, and someone came up to me and they were like, I'm not going to cry. They were like, you saved my life. They were like, you helped save my life. And mind you, I was just working and working and working. I had clients back to back, and I was chiming in and checking on people, but I also ran a HIV support group at the time. And I was really adamant about like, not about people sharing, but coming and just feeling support by just sitting down on a chair.
Mm-hmm.
And people looked forward to going to the group when I ran it, and I left, and it was years later, and at least two people said that you helped change my life, and and someone said you helped save my life. I wasn't gonna, and I almost cried because at that time, because I was unemployed, I felt like I had no sense of identity. Not having a job as a gay man is like, okay, now when someone asks me what I do, I'm gonna be like, girl, I pay my rent. But I changed someone's life, and ever since then, I was like, well, I have done a lot of great things, and I can do more great things. But I was wondering if is there any testimonial? That's the word I was looking for. That someone's ever given you that was like, okay, I can keep doing this, or this is something that's definitely what I meant to do. And
I mean, for sure, I'm like flooded with examples of that, of like people who have chosen to share with me how our work has really changed them, and that means everything to me, right? When people choose to share that with me, I'm deeply affected by that, right?
And just a little more context, like do you like sit down? Do you like put down the phone or take a step back and like, damn, I've really worked really hard to get here? Because you told me yesterday, like, you have 2 masters, right? Like, you've worked really hard to get where where you are in your profession, to be able to help people, but also to have the reward of people being like, wow, you really helped.
I mean, for sure, right? When I really like zoom out and look at my life, I am beyond grateful.
Yeah.
And the work that I do, I'm so fortunate that I love the work that I do.
I love that.
Like, I love my clients, and some of them I've worked with for years.
That's good.
I mean, and I've literally seen their entire way of being and life change.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've worked with people who have gone from being terrified of themselves and terrified of the world around them and terrified of sex and dating, and have moved into a place of being like self-assured in a loving, healthy relationship and being fully realized in like their own body. And now I just watch them do things like get married, like decide to like start having kids. And I'm just like, that is part of why I do what I do. Like, to watch people just like arrive into themselves.
I love that.
That's like everything for me.
And what are some of your own like self-care practices that keep you grounded? Because like the one reason I was saying earlier, like, oh, you sit and you hear stories, and you take in trauma, and you evaluate it, analyze it. I'm not sure what the proper word for that is, but you do that. And what are your self-care? How do you like ground yourself? How do you remove yourself? How do you shut the computer screen, detach from things?
It's a wonderful question. So I practice what I preach.
Yeah.
I am somebody that like, I meditate every morning. I meditated this morning. It's something I do when I first wake up.
Okay.
My eyes open, and if I have to pee, I'll pee, and then I will go sit on my sofa and I will meditate for 10 minutes. And it's really helpful for me, and I love that moment in the morning just for me.
Oh, I love that.
And then throughout the day, like, I also do things like measured breathing. I'm a big advocate for having my own therapist and my own like team of friends that I can also talk to about whatever, right? Like, they have full permission to ask me about anything. Right? Like,
that's a support system.
The support system is intense, right?
It's important.
I also do. It's super important.
It's super important. I've recently met people that they don't have one, and it's hard. Life is hard. Sometimes you don't meet people that you can trust with anything. Honestly, they give you a glass of water, you can't trust them.
Absolutely.
But the thing that I said back to them was like, it's important. It's one of the social. It's one of the I messed this word up, but the determinants of health. It's like there's 5 of them, and having like a social networks in the system is really important, not only for just having friends sake, for Pete's sake, but like having someone to go to, because as we age, we go through way different things. If we go from struggles with relationships to some people have kids, some people, in my case, some people start to realize you might not have a family for a very long time.
Exactly.
And a biological family. Your parents get old. I'll put it that way. Your parents are dying.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's in not having anyone to talk to, whether it's 1 to 2 to 3 people or anyone. To me, it was stressful. I come from a place where I used to be really like closed off and wouldn't say anything. But then people would ask me how I'm doing, and I'd be like, I'm fine, knowing good goddamn well I'm not fine.
Mm-mm.
Once I got, out of that habit and started talking to people, I felt so much better. I still went to go get a therapist and go seek counseling or join a support group. I never did mindfulness, but having a social network was really important. So I feel like just wanted to push that out there.
Oh my goodness, yes, right.
And have you validate my thought process around that.
I validate fully. I'll also say, right, like, just so y'all know, like, you have changed my life today, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And I think we were talking a little bit about this, but like, classically, I have turned down every podcast that has been asked of me because they scare me. I'm scared my imposter syndrome gets like kicked up.
Yes.
And it's really like my final frontier in terms of things that I don't do because I'm afraid. And when you asked me, I just said yes.
I'm so happy you said yes. It's really important that I wanted to start the year with one. I want you to feel comfortable. I want to start with a friend, and also you do great work, right? It's not easy being any person that does a service in this day and age.
I'm a big fan. I spend a lot of time in Connecticut these days, and my more local queer center out there is called Triangle Care Center. That's not right. Circle Care Center and Triangle Community Center.
I used to go to the Circle Care Center.
Oh, major,
yes.
Right? So I love TCC, Triangle Community Center. They do such amazing work for all of Connecticut, right? And outside of like big cities like New York, services are needed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're very fortunate here in the city to have like a multitude of places to go.
Right.
When you step outside a big city, it gets harder.
Connecticut doesn't have a lot.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
For sure. And places like TCC, Circle Care Center, they're like...
Because when I used to go to Circle Care, I drove like... Where is Circle Care, by the way?
Circle Care is anchored in Norwalk.
I used to drive from New London.
Oh, baby.
Because I wanted to get care.
Oh, baby. Now they have one up, like West Haven.
Good.
Yeah. So, my practice, also, Elle has like a T.S. Madison quote on their wall of get a job, start a business, right? My business is I have a small group practice.
Yes.
Gay owned and operated. I have 3 other amazing queer male therapists that we're all serving like the queer community of New York.
Yeah.
I love them. They're such wonderful human beings and therapists, and our practice is totally virtual, right? So you could be in New York City, you could be in New York State, anywhere, right? And if you have the ability to like tune in privately via Zoom, come see us.
There you go. And where can they find you?
You can go to thebernogroup.com. You can find us on Psychology Today, ZocDoc.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
You can give us a swift Google. You can find us everywhere.
I love that. I'm not even going to promote your Instagram because then once you become someone's therapist, they can't be on your Instagram. So.
Oh, I'm not that kind of therapist. I'm very open.
Okay.
Right? Like, you work with me, you can find my Instagram.
Okay.
I have no secrets.
It's all food and just you going to the beach mostly, though.
I mean, mostly. But again, right? Like, you can
go and browse it yourself.
Yeah, go browse it.
I love your Instagram, though.
I have no secrets.
I love your Instagram. I love you and Christian. I love you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
I look at your pictures and I slam my phone down. I'm like, I'm gotta be out. No, I'm kidding.
Too.
No, he's amazing. You guys are sweet.
Thank you.
It's amazing too because it's from Connecticut. When I lived in Connecticut, I didn't know any good gays. That's fucked up. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. That's not
He's
true.
not kidding.
I'm not.
Those
I
were the
am.
truth.
I am. I know tons of good gays, but I'd never had ran into you before, and I met you through my other friends, and it makes sense that Sean and Rashawn and Mike and Josh would have. Whose friend were you first?
I think. Well, so I knew Rashawn from a bajillion years ago. So
Okay.
I'll go with Rashawn.
Okay.
And then Mike kind of like pulled Christian and myself like back into the
Yes.
fold.
They're like a little like fishing pole and hook
They
together.
really are. They're like the mayors of Hell's Kitchen.
One last thing, because I know
Yeah.
that you're a Broadway person.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Death Becomes Her last night. It was amazing. First of all, not too much of my girl Michelle Williams. I love
Wait a
the
minute.
entire the entire cast is amazing. But Michelle, obviously, because of my like infatuations with Destiny's Child and like them individually, I was sitting at least like 6 or 8 rows back, and I was like, I wonder if I ran up there and was like, and did something crazy. I was just like so blown away. She did amazing in the show, in my opinion. And then everyone else, because it wasn't about Viola Van Horn. It was about the entire ensemble, and particularly the people that play Death Becomes Her. What was their names? It was
Madeline and Helen.
Yes, they were amazing. Their singing, and I'm not, and I said this before, and I want to make sure I clean up this time. Like, I've not been apt to theater.
Yeah.
So I don't call myself a theater guy. I'm just like,
It's fine.
run-of-the-mill guy. But like when I get into the seat and I start seeing the whole creation come together, I'm just mesmerized. Now I understand what the Disney's gays are going through. I understand a little bit, because once you're sitting there and you're hearing like this live performance and you're seeing the dancing and the comedy and the stages moving around, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm actually going to see that very show in like an hour.
Oh, you're seeing Death Becomes Her?
Yeah. I'm going to the matinee today.
What seat you sitting in?
I think I'm like 7 rows back.
All right. If you see Michelle, just get her to sign. Bring a pencil or a pen. Okay.
You just want me to like chuck it up there?
Just there's an intermission in this show. Some shows don't have an intermission.
Yeah.
This is the first one I went to that had an intermission. I want you to be excited, because the second part she opens like the first, but it's so good.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
Like Death Becomes Her is like an OG classic film that
I watched it on
adore.
it's on YouTube, I think, for free now, and like it is literally like I think that would be classified as a screenplay, because they don't move too much outside of the house.
Yeah.
The Viola
It's very theatrical
Yeah.
in its nature.
and camp. Would you say-
Don't quote me, but I think a playwright wrote that screenplay.
Okay, and I don't know.
We can fix that and edit if I'm wrong.
It's okay. Don't get mad, honey. Just get glad and go see the show.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Same.
To really start my journey on mindfulness and embark on more of a mental health path with this segment of Queer Late Night. I really appreciate you taking the time to come from Connecticut and out of your day to like just give us open a can of fresh worms, good bait worms on
fresh worms.
how to get through 2025 and really love what we're all striving to do. Not trying, but we're striving, and we're going to do it, and we're manifesting it, but also putting a plan to action. And I really do believe that starting with mindfulness is perfect, because even in mindfulness, I can come out of that and probably be like, let's be kind to ourselves today. I'm normally very kind to myself, but every now and then I'll be like, bitch, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's
And I'll leave
leave.
you with this. That is the action of being kind to yourself.
Mindfulness.
Right there, right? You want to have that tangible. You said manifesting. I would do you one better. I'm like, what's the action you're taking? The action you're taking is taking that time to practice mindfulness, to be kind to yourself.
And that's it. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening and watching a new rebrand, a new up of Queer Late Night. I can't wait to come back to another episode with you. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. And most importantly, let's practice mindfulness in 2025 and get what we want out of this year. Go get that bag, go get that money, go get that partner, go get that Cadillac. Go get it. That's it. And we're done.